All right, Andrea, thank you very much. As mentioned, we're following breaking news this hour out of Munich, Germany, where there have been reports of shots fired at a shopping center. The shopping center is outside the Olympia area. Let's go to my colleague, Lucy Cavanaugh, out of London. She's following the very latest here. So, Lucy, what do we know?
Good morning there. Well, a spokesman for the Munich police has confirmed to NBC News that a shooting has taken place, as you mentioned, at the Olympia shopping center in Munich. That's really the only thing that we can confirm at this moment. There have been conflicting reports from German media, including the German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung, which is reporting that police told the reporters at that newspaper several people potentially dead and injured in that Munich shooting. NBC has not been able to confirm that information independently. We have seen the area sealed off. There was lots of videos and stills on social media showing a heavy police presence, people running away from the scene of that mall, one of the largest in the areas. It's a two-floor mall, about 135 shops there. The Munich police taking to Twitter to tell people to stay away from this location, saying there was a major police operation underway there. And of course, Germany obviously on edge there after that attack on Monday, if you recall, by a young man. He was thought to be a Southeast Asian migrant who had stabbed several people on a train in Bavaria on Monday. That attack claimed by ISIS, and Munich, of course, is the capital of Bavaria. So a lot of concern about these developments that we will continue to track for you.
And Lucy, we're looking at this video that came in just a short time ago. You see, obviously, people running. You see holding of hands, walking out, in this case, calmly. But in the horizon there, you see someone even pushing a stroller as they are fleeing. Different degrees of reaction there. We're also monitoring what we're seeing online. To your point, we've not been able to verify all of the information, but there are enough tweets and information coming in on, for example, Periscope, where people are describing a scene where you can hear shots in the shopping center. As you pointed out, the roads have been blocked off in this area. Can you tell us any more about where the shopping center is located and the area around it?
Sure. Well, this is a very busy area. Again, this is one of the larger shopping centers in Munich. You know, this was constructed around the time of the Summer Olympics in Munich back in 1972. You know, there's tons of nearly 3,000 parking spaces available. As I mentioned earlier, 135 shops, 3 department stores, major grocery stores and clothing stores. So a lot of people bound to be in that area. Of course, it's not necessarily rush hour at this moment, so we don't know how many people could have been caught up in this, but Munich, a very large city, of course, the capital of Bavaria. And of course, this is a very difficult time, not just for Germany, because we've seen that attack on Monday, but for Europe in general. This is coming right on the heels of that horrific truck attack in Nice, the coup in Turkey, the Istanbul airport attack. And it seems like every week there's some sort of development that really does terrify the population there. But again, you know, no more details about injuries or deaths. We are very closely monitoring this, but again, not very much that we can confirm at this point, except that this is a busy area and people are bound to be affected.
I'm looking at video in our audience as well here. We're told this is from Periscope. If we can go back to that, you see some of the police response, a number of police vehicles lined up along this street. So here's what we've been told at this point. Munich police would not confirm any casualties, but told NBC News in the last hour that the situation is, quote, over. That was the early word, but it is clear the response to whatever happened at that shopping center is ongoing. We clearly know from the reaction of the people that we showed you in the video just a few minutes ago, people were running from there. It seems some running obviously faster than others. Perhaps they were clear vantage point or heard the shots fired, while others seem to be walking away a lot slower, but still nevertheless leaving that area. We've been told, according to some of the eyewitnesses, people were running away, seeking shelter. Others were warning that there were shots being fired within this shopping center. A number of policemen with machine guns and a chopper now circling that area. We've also been able to see from some of the images captured mostly at this point on social media, like Periscope, which is what you're seeing now, is that police with police vests are surrounding the area. This is the Olympic Shopping Center. So, Lucy, it's interesting that the limited information that we're getting out at this hour. The first reports of this came in, I would say, about 20 minutes ago. And it seems that we've had just a slow stream of details at this point.
Right. I mean, I've worked in Germany in the past. The authorities there usually are quite careful about releasing information, especially in something like this on the heels of an attack that took place on Monday. You do see a heavy police presence. As I mentioned earlier, the Munich authorities did take to Twitter warning people to stay off the streets, to stay out of this area. They are responding as in full force, as we have seen from those Periscope videos. Lots of trucks there, the flashing lights, crowds gathering to watch. It's still daylight there in the early evening in Munich. So again, a very populated area, but we're probably not going to get a lot more firm information until the police have a chance to investigate. We've also heard those reports about whatever active situation they're being potentially wrapped up, potentially being over, but that investigation just beginning, obviously.
Okay, Lucy, I'm going to get you to stand by. Let me bring in my colleague, Ayman Mohideen. He is standing by. Ayman, Lucy points out that area is very populated around this shopping center. We do know that police in Munich just tweeted out for people to stay in their homes. It's hard for us to see from this Google map and even this video from Periscope exactly the layout around this shopping center. But from everything Lucy has reported, this is an area very populated around this Olympic shopping center where we've seen now people flee out of there, and it's unclear exactly what happened inside.
Yeah, that's right, Tamara. And before we get to that, I mean, obviously there is some kind of police operation that is now underway in and around the vicinity of that shopping mall. And just to put one thing in perspective about that in just a second, but I want to bring you some information that we're just getting here from the New York Police Department Counterterrorism Unit. They have put out a tweet now saying that they are monitoring events that are unfolding in Munich, Germany's shopping center. So this is coming out of the NYPD Counterterrorism Center. If not, it should not be read too much into the fact that it is coming out of the counterterrorism unit, if you will, of the NYPD, but that is certainly something that should be put in context. Now, you were talking about what is taking place there in Munich, and it's important to note this is a Friday night in Munich, Germany. This would be a very busy time for our shopping malls, you can imagine, as we would see here in the United States as well. People at the end of a work week probably out with their families, probably out at that mall, whether or not there's a theater in there. But you can imagine that it would be busy with a lot of pedestrian traffic. Now, as we've been reporting, the spokesperson who spoke to NBC News from the Munich police told us that the situation is over. And just by looking at some of the video there, in terms of what we've been able to put, both the Periscope and some of this video, the police vehicles that are around the vicinity of that mall, this certainly still looks like an ongoing operation, not necessarily an active shooter as we would describe here in the United States, but nonetheless a situation that continues to unfold there, according to both the police and now according to the NYPD, New York Police Department Counterterrorism Unit. Tamron?
All right, Ayman, let me go over to our colleague, Cal Perry. I understand he has some new information regarding possible casualties. Cal, what do you know?
Yeah, according to German TV, and NBC News is working to independently confirm this, but German TV right now is reporting at least one person killed, another 10 people wounded. And just a little bit more on what Ayman was just talking about. German police are saying that the shooting that took place at the mall is over. However, the situation's still on lockdown. That neighborhood's still on lockdown. The police in Munich just put out a tweet asking people in that neighborhood, in that area of northwestern Munich, to stay in their homes, which would lead us to believe that the gunman is not in custody. So while the shooting is not ongoing, this is still very much an ongoing situation as they now search for this gunman. We also understand that the German police have been joined by the German army, which is not unusual that the German military and some of those special operations police would arrive at the scene, Tamron.
Okay, and going back just for clarification, Cal, authorities have not confirmed that the gunman is still on the loose. We're going by the fact that they've told people to stay in their homes, which could also indicate that it could be just them trying to control the situation as well.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, one of the things that people across Europe, of course, are worried about after this string of attacks is that there could be follow-on attacks, right? That this is not an isolated incident. We've seen this here, where we worry about unexploded devices, that we worry that people have planted bombs after these shooting attacks. And certainly that could explain also this series of lockdown procedures which have gone into place.
Right, and there are various reports right now, but we've not been able to confirm casualties or injuries at this moment. But certainly it is clear, and let me go back to Lucy, if you're standing by in London for us as part of this breaking news coverage. It is obviously clear that this is an ongoing situation. To what degree, we do not know. And for our audience just joining us, what you're looking at, some of the images coming in from Munich, Germany, where we received word about 20 minutes ago, maybe a little longer, of a shooting inside a shopping center. It is Friday evening, as pointed out by my colleague, Ayman Mohideen, and we've seen video of people responding in various ways. We've seen people running, including one image of what appeared to be an adult pushing a stroller, while others walked away more casually. The response significant from what we see there in front of us. So, Lucy, going back to the shopping mall and its history and its location, what else can you tell us?
Sure. Well, this shopping mall, again, is in, it's the Olympia shopping mall in Munich. This is a very heavily populated city, the capital of Bavaria. It was opened back in 1972, around the time, of course, of the Olympic Games in Munich. And we remember the massacre that had taken place back then. So a dark sort of connection there. Now, we have seen very conflicting reports that NBC has not been able to verify in terms of the number of shots that were fired. One employee inside that Munich shopping center reportedly telling Reuters by phone that many shots were fired. Some local media suggesting there may have been injuries or casualties, but again, we cannot confirm that. We do know, and you can see from the video there, the Periscope video there, it's still daylight, but it's about 7 p.m. local time in Munich, and so we probably would have seen, the normal pedestrian traffic that one would see around a mall at this time. Families, people going about their business, buying whatever it is that they might need. This is a 2-floor shopping center. There's about 135 different shops there, 3 department stores, clothing, grocery, everything that you might need in a big city would be located right there. So definitely a highly populated area, Tamron.
And right now I'm reading an interview with a witness, the Mina Stahl. She described as a Duke University student. She's originally from Munich, but was there or is there visiting her family. According to her, people were running and telling them not to go to the shopping mall. They were in shock and they weren't able to talk anymore. According to this witness, she ran back to her grandmother's apartment, who lives about 3 minutes from the mall, and called family members to tell them that she was safe. She says that she watched these events playing out from her grandmother's terrace near there and saw people running and coming from the direction of the mall. According to this Duke University student whose grandmother lives near the mall, she and her family took in someone. They were looking for shelter and had a small child. She describes that family as being in shock and that everyone is scared and no one knows what's really going on. This witness says that this is a popular shopping mall, which Lucy Kavanaugh, my colleague, has reported. Cafes, restaurants, very popular. Ayman Mohideen, let me go back to you. Quite naturally, with everything that's going on in this region and quite honestly in the world, when you hear of an incident playing out at a shopping center, we think about Nairobi, Kenya, and the massacre that took place there. We're looking at people Friday evening, as you pointed out, Ayman, with their families, leisurely perhaps, and then gunshots ring out at this time where so many countries are on heightened alert.
Yeah, Tamron, this is what would be considered by many officials to be what is described as a soft target. This is an area that will have a very large pedestrian traffic, if you will. It would certainly be one with a lot of civilians. No doubt that given the recent security concerns and what we've seen unfold across Europe, in France in particular, in Brussels in recent months, there would certainly be some kind of security, some kind of presence there at that particular shopping center. Obviously, malls to malls vary and differ in terms of their security posture, whether they have any armed guards, whether they have any kind of personnel checking bags or metal detectors, even in some cases. In recent months when I've been to Germany, I can't recall that there were. That doesn't mean that this particular mall did not have any kind of beefed up security, but that would certainly be something that is not lost on German security officials. Keep in mind, Germany, for the past several months, even in the wake of recent incidents, smaller incidents, but nonetheless other incidents in terms of attacks, has been on a heightened state of alert because of their concerns of what has happened in neighboring France. And as you mentioned, not just in Europe, but also in other soft targets around the world, even more recently in places like Istanbul and what have you. But looking at it right now, there's no doubt that the immediate concern for law enforcement officials and security personnel is to make sure all shooters, or if multiple shooters are involved, that all those shooters are neutralized or that the situation is contained. They also want to make sure that if there was anyone that was injured, that they are being treated to and being taken care of immediately. And by the looks of it, obviously seeing the presence of a lot of those police vehicles on the screen, the fact that you were saying they're asking people to remain indoors, that could be an indication that this situation still is ongoing, that they may not have, as Cal Perry was just saying, that this may not be entirely over in terms of locating the shooter and neutralizing that shooter. If they're asking people to stay indoors, they're probably still assessing a risk or a certain threat that may still be out there. And that's what they want to make sure folks are not putting themselves at risk, Cameron.
All right, Eamon, let me go to Lucy Kavanaugh. She's standing by. Lucy, I understand you have more information that police have released regarding casualties and this search for this individual.
We're hearing that there's been several injuries, but more information will be revealed soon. Munich transportation authorities, Tamron, also now saying that service has been halted on several trains in that area, trams and bus lines after the shooting. So they're clearly expanding the area of investigation, or at least trying to seal off this area in order to figure out exactly what happened there. We're also hearing unconfirmed reports that this mall may have been evacuated, which would probably be a standard operating procedure for something like this. Still working to confirm on that potential injuries report, though.
Right. And you mentioned the transportation impacted by this. There's at least one report that the gunman may have fled the scene and used the underground transportation system to get away from police through that route. So that's something that's out there now. I want to pivot back to Eamon Mohideen. And Eamon, you mentioned some smaller incidents lately of note that have been covered in the news. How has that affected, or did that have an impact on the overall level of security or the concern of a threat in Germany? Well,
I'm sure there's no doubt that German officials, as you would expect in New York, and certainly as you would expect in any major city, and Munich being one of the largest cities in Germany, they were certainly going to be monitoring this on their threat matrix. And that is essentially a look at all the events and incidents that are taking place. As Lucy was mentioning, this incident at a train, but more importantly, I mean, if you look at just, going back to July 14th, this Nice attack along the promenade there, all of those would be flagged by intelligence officials, security personnel, for security people on the ground to adjust their posture around soft targets. Not sure if there was any particular event that was being held there. Not sure if this attack was in any way, shape, or form targeting a specific event. But as we talk about this over and over, Tamron, this is a soft target. This is the kind of target that security officials are most concerned about. Not just the big spectacular events, not just the big events, but these small places, soft targets, high pedestrian traffic, lots of civilians.
And let me go to Cal Perry. Cal, I understand you have some new information to report to us.
Yeah, German special forces have arrived at that mall. They've shut down the adjacent parking garage. That might be out of an abundance of caution. It may be because they're still searching for this gunman, something that we're trying to clear up. They're also putting out the word, and again, this is police in Munich are saying, quote, avoid public places in the city. The situation is still unclear. So from the police in Munich, they're saying that this situation is still unclear, which would lead us to believe that it's still ongoing in some way, shape, or form or another. The other priority for people in Munich, for the hospitals, is to get those wounded out of what is now a lockdown area. That's something that we're seeing video of now.
And we know, Cal, that police have confirmed several injured. Have we received an update on possible casualties?
No, we're still sticking with local German television. At least one person killed, at least another 10 people wounded. But again, these are very initial reports, and we're just now seeing the first responders get to the scene. So we should have an update on that shortly.
Okay. And let's go back. I believe we have Jim Kavanaugh online with us as well. Jim, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Cameron.
Okay, so we're looking at this situation at a mall. As I pointed out to Eamon Mohideen, we've focused a lot on airports as of late. These soft targets, which is such an interesting way to describe just about every place any individual can go and gather. But this instantly made me think of Nairobi, Kenya, those images we saw out of there during that horrific massacre. It appears, at least right now, this is not to that degree, but certainly this is where you find vulnerable people, not on high alert, families gathered.
No, exactly right. I mean, the terrorists, if it's terrorist attacks, they go for the crowd. You're right to think of the Kenyan Mall. Of course, that was multiple attackers.
Right.
And the police don't know at this juncture in Munich what exactly they're dealing with either. Even if they have apprehended a shooter or shot and killed a shooter, they don't know if there's other multiple actors out there. And that's why they have to say to everybody, lock down, stay in place, even if they caught someone or shot someone, because they don't know if there's others that could also be explosive. So for the Munich police and the Munich police commanders, this is a very unfolding, ongoing situation. And unfortunately, we know the climate in Europe after the Bataclan and the Brussels airport and, the Nice attack and these individual one-off knife attacks we've seen, that there's inspired actors, there's directed actors, and the terrorists benefit from that, from a thing we call the propaganda of the deed. And that goes way back to Al-Qaeda's philosophy. But what happens is they inspires or, encourages even ISIS or Al-Qaeda to directly act. And it inspires actors in between. So it's very, very disconcerting what Europe's facing, that people can be radicalized so fast or can make direct connections so fast to the terrorists. So Munich police will have to get a hold of it. It's hard to stop the first shots. You have to stop the first shots by intelligence and getting them before they start shooting. Because once they start unloading those magazines at the mall, Cameron, as you have outlined, it becomes an awful situation of chaos and trying to locate and stop the shooter.
All right, Jim, we're going to get you to stand by. But again, to update our audience, according to the information we've received from local German television, at least one fatality, one casualty, and several others injured in what appears to be a shooting that took place inside a shopping mall Friday evening in Munich. We've seen people flee the area. Last word from authorities, they've advised people to stay in their homes. They've evacuated obviously the mall, and it sounds as if the area around it as well is in a shelter-in-place, for lack of a better description, situation. Although from the video, and we're not sure of the timestamp of this video, you see a number of people standing outside. This has also affected the underground transportation system, as one news agency is reporting that the gunman may have fled by using underground transportation. So we will continue to follow the breaking news out of Munich, Germany. We'll be right back with more information and more details.